What's up, everyone? Make sure you check out the West West Network website at westwestnet.com. Here you can find amazing independent podcasts based in Aotearoa, covering everything from pop culture to mental health. Also, if you enjoy our content and want to support us, please consider clicking on the support button on the homepage of the website. We appreciate your patronage and look forward to delivering more thought-provoking and quality conversations.
West, y'all.
Sonny, why are you a Chiefs fan, bro? Why are you a Chiefs fan?
Well, first of all, it's not that hard to figure it out. I mean, you've almost got an All Black team, and it's taken you how many years to win a championship, and still haven't quite got there. So, I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm raised and born in here in Tamaki Makaurau, and then I spent some time down in the Bay Area. At that time, I didn't know anything about rugby, and then I discovered this team called the Chiefs. And I think one of the things that I like about them is that, they're just simple guys, just trying to play with the ball. And I look at the Blues, they're playing with their hair and playing with all sorts of things. And, credit to them, they're doing well this season. But like anything else, I've said to everyone else that, even yourself, Cam, you sent a really nice message about the Chiefs. Use the handkerchief to wipe your brows. Go, oi, sorry. I think I really like the guys who's just living in Te Arawa, Kemingasa, Ngofulalo with my wife. We just sort of appreciate our culture more. I did, especially. And I think when you've lived in Auckland for such a long time and you see the Blues, or actually, before the Super 12 came along, and Auckland was always doing good, you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's all good. Rainfree Shield, oh, no worries. And it wasn't until I moved out and I realized, oh, jeez, is this what, there's a different sort of vibe when you're living outside of the main centres now. People really take to their rugby seriously. It's part of their culture and everything. And that's what happened. I picked it up, and then unfortunately, actually I better qualify that, I had to move back and went into studies, and I carried on with the Chiefs, much to the eek of my inga, like, hey, calm down, so there's this good banter when the Chiefs are doing well. You'll hear from me. When they're not doing well, I'm using the handkerchief to block my ears and cover my eyes because all the blue daggers coming out. So when you guys won on thankfully you guys did well to get
talking
through.
about the donut game.
There's the donut game, and then there's the other game that you guys didn't shut out Crusaders, and in my heart is going, well, here we go, and then fortunately it wasn't Reese that was running the last ball, but it was the other guy, and I thought, good on you guys. So then I put the Blues shirt on, and I could hear all of them going, suddenly, why you put that on? I said, I only put it on because I can fit it, and I didn't want to use it to gong it in the rubbish, but other than that, mate, you guys, Blues are good.
Well, the Blues haven't been good since 2004. I think since last time we won the championship. I think. But I think it was that, you call it the dark ages, because 18 years or maybe 16 years of just the bottom half of the table. Every Super Rugby year the Blues were, and I guess I like to think that a lot of Blues fans just took off and supported the Chiefs during that time period, because we had all these Auckland guys going down there too. So
it's a bit like the Warriors. I get worried when everyone leaves the Warriors and they play better. The same with the Blues. Every time they leave the Blues, they only get better. Then they go down to the Chiefs or Crusaders. So I don't know what it is. It might be you guys set them up and then we just capitalize on them and stuff. But I think those dark ages are also quite a reflection on that rugby. Would like to think that Auckland is the epicenter of rugby, but it just proved that it really wasn't. It was just a mecca of many players, but maybe we never had the chance to kind of really sit down and develop them. And that's one of the great things about Auckland, is it has a richness of different players from all parts of the world right here in Auckland. And it's like, there's like wingers for Africa, and then you move outside and you're like, you really have to own that position. You're competing locally, and then you really got to compete for it. So it's a bit of a challenge for Auckland because there's so many you can pick from. And then the other side is that if you don't pick the right one, and they go outside, and we've seen it, they just blossom and things. And so I think it's always going to be a challenge for Auckland to really harness who they have. I think the culture for Auckland is really starting to turn. You can see it, but it's going to also take. I think the game on Saturday was a real reflection of where the Blues are. They just got to learn to shut the game down. Why would you kick the ball back to the opposition knowing that the best three in the competition is sitting there waiting for you just to kick it?
I think we would just want to test our defense because you're right. Because I think the last quarter of the game, in the second half, Bonnie Barrett was kicking for territory, and the Crusaders back three were we're just running at them.
Yeah, and it was good. I mean, that's a good thing about the Auckland Blues is that they have the option to switch Barrett to the back, and so that he can play both on an offensive and defensive strategy. But I think the other thing is that when your opposition that you're playing against are quite, they know how to move that ball really quickly. Sometimes it's better to just play ball in hand, play it safe, but at the same time go forward. That's where Papali'i comes into it, because he's the new Jerome Kano and I see him really stepping up in the All Blacks. But sometimes it's really hard, and that's one of the things about the Blues is that they sort of think on their feet when the ball is going forward, but when they don't, that's where they get that's when things fall apart. They just haven't quite got the lateral thinking that they should have now that they've got some key players, and you've got Bowden Barrett in there, you've got Roger in there, which they really need to play more. I think they just leave him in there.
Yeah, the shoulder injury he had was a real setback for him.
Yeah, and I think now that he's in there, they just need to play him. They can't really afford to. I mean, injuries are injuries, but you really need him in there so that he can be part of the wider All Black team, because he's going to be something he's going to be special, and when you look at the stocks that we've got, we really don't have a lot, taking South Africa out of this was not ideal, but it wasn't ideal for us to travel all the way across the other side of the world and then travel back. It just, the impacts on the teams were just so high. Some teams travel better. Blues didn't really travel well, but when we're going across to Australia, it's a different story. It's affordable. It's doable. But I think I like both teams the way they played. Because they're the top two right now. But you can also see that if we're the Blues capitalized on Crusaders really, really well. They just need to do it for 85 minutes. They kind of shut themselves down in the last quarter, which was really, it would have been a real pity if they lost that part, because then it would have been them to win it and them to lose it, sort of thing. I think what I like about the Chiefs right now, they're in a rebuilding stage. They've got kids, they literally got kids in there. They just throw that ball, just tackle anyone and smash them. Sam Kane, Brody Retallick, they're the stalwarts in there and a few others. Maybe next season there'll be a little bit more season, So I think...
And also they lost Damien McKenzie to Japan. He's gone to Japan for a sabbatical. So.
I think it was a good loss because it forced him to think outside, and really push the other guys that were maybe didn't get a chance to play, because he'll be gone. He'll come back next year. But yeah, I don't think... Like, McKenzie's a loss, but like any other team, Richard McCaw was a loss. Did we stop? We carried on. We just had to adjust our game. Same with Jerome Kano. He left, and the impacts of him leaving were really noticeable, but eventually you find the right people. Dalton's is the man, just like Sam Kane. They're both quiet players. They do a lot of their talking with the work that they do, and you got players like the Ioane brothers. They're really, the older brother really stepped up last year, And that's exactly what you need, is guys that have it, but just have the right environment. And that's what I think the Blues are really, really capitalizing on that. It's taken a few seasons to get there, but now that they're almost at that point and having good coaches, you can really start to see some of the guys, play a different style of rugby. Tuingafasi did one wrong thing, and normally he does a number of wrong things, but he only did one wrong thing, and that was he let the ball. I think he lost the ball going forward, but other than that, he was devastating, and that's really important for him to have his mark in there, because the last thing you want to do is be an All Black. You don't produce, you're not performing, and you're still in the All Blacks. It's a bit hard, It's like Richard Mo'unga. He's all good when his pack's going forward, but when they're not, he's quiet. And you saw it in the international games. As soon as things don't go well, he goes quiet. And that's why sometimes I think it's better when you play with teams that things are not going well, go into the All Blacks and things are going well. Like, wow, this is great. I mean, shucks, why couldn't you? Why can't you win? So I think it goes both ways. And I think when I look now and I see the different trials that the Blues have gone through, I mean, they've not had it easy. Pat Lam was a classic, but that was under the old boys, the old boys culture, which they had to really sort out, get rid of, change, and that takes time for things to settle. You see now the guys playing, and they're really playing as a team. They're playing for each other, and that's not always been the case. So I take my hat off to the Blues, to where and what they've done to get to this stage here, and that's not something that happened overnight. Leon McDonald's done a lot of work. He has another great assistant coach, which is Joe Schmidt, which is great, and he's going to be with the All Blacks. We need that. And so
especially because he coached Ireland.
Well, yeah.
Ireland's been our bane the last couple of years.
Absolutely. And you need, why wouldn't you have someone that actually pretty much unstitched the All Blacks in everything that we had prepared for? And that's not an easy feat when you've got Hansen, who's been there with the World Cup in 2011 and then 2015, and then you play against Joe Schmidt, and not once did they lose, it's twice. That's something to be said. So I think having him on this side will provide a perspective that we may not be able to see. Like, what did he do? How did he see it? To be able to undo what the All Blacks were renowned for. And so I think that's a really, really good strategic move to pull Joe in. It was a pity we lost Rene to Australia, but then maybe it was going to happen, And then you've got Crusaders coach, Hopefully he hangs around and stays around, There is, I guess, truth and depth when they say, winning championships on this vein is different from winning World Cups, because you're literally playing against the best, whereas when you're playing in the Super Rugby, you play with the very best you've got, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best players in the whole world. So different dynamics. So I think his time will come, and we'll just see what happens this year.
Yeah. It's also because of the All Blacks succession plan of the coaching staff. Like, they always seem to have a head coach, and the assistant coach moves up when the head coach moves on. Yeah. So I think if they want to bring Joe Smith in, they'll come in as a assistant coach, and then eventually he'll move up to head coach. And it's hard for them to get a Scott Robertson straight away, or Rennie straight away, because they haven't had the starting from the bottom, starting from assistant coach. No.
And I guess that's one approach one could look at,
But the demand is high overseas, so they can't afford to wait around.
Yeah,
and there's offers coming to them.
And you're seeing more and more coaches go across and coaching in the local leagues, but then they're going into the international roles, as assistant coaches or defensive coaches, whether it's for Ireland, Wales, there is a demand for more Kiwi coaches and Kiwi Kiwis, being part of the management and coaching staff because of what we bring into it and so forth. And it's always going to be a positive challenge. How do you hold who we have here when the overseas demand for both coaches and players are high and so forth? So it's going to be something that, New Zealand Rugby are going to have to try and figure out and move really quickly because, a guy like Robinson he has a shelf life, and if we don't capitalize on him, I'd really hate to see him go to someone else, so to speak.
Yeah, I think All Blacks need all the help they can get, especially because, like you mentioned before, South Africa's out of the picture. Even on the international scale, like Tri-Nations, they're out. And what we don't have anymore, All Blacks, is we only got Australia. So we have tests against Australia, and that's it. Where up north, they've got the Six Nations. They're always battling every year. So they've got that battle hardness, so to speak, when it comes to the World Cup.
And we saw that in the last, it was evident there was a massive gap between, playing the domestic or the games that we played between ourselves and Australia. While it was tough, once we stepped out of that arena and then stepped into the world stage, you could see the difference. And we even felt it. There was a bit of uncertainty when we played the South Africans. Although they may not have started well at the beginning of the season, it didn't take that long for them to really wind themselves up, and they were like a train. There was no stopping them. And I don't think we didn't win the contact area. We didn't win the crash ball area. What we won was panic, and they knew it. As soon as they kicked the ball high, they're running at us. We're looking, waiting. We could hear footsteps coming, and they hiff their ball out, and everyone's like panic, and we played into their hands, and we didn't adjust. Everyone knew that. They still didn't adjust. So, they may not have learned to adjust yet, but they're going to have to, because at the end of the day, if the way that we're getting beat, not just from South Africans, but Ireland and also France, same tactics. This is the year that we really need to get those, as the coach said, get the combinations right, and then having Joe Schmidt in there will help with the selection, and also with the defensive pattern that they're going to have to adopt and play to, because the South Africans are predictable. Even then they switched from a kicking game to an attacking game, and we didn't switch. So that's just me looking at them from a very this is the worst part. I'm not even a rugby player, so to speak, and just looking at it and thinking, oh, okay, well, if you think about it, get the ball, pass it out, run it straight, go to ground, get the ball out again and run it straight, but get the ball, kick it. Why would you kick it to these players that eat that for breakfast and sort of thing? So I think once we get through this competition, then, and now that we've COVID is no longer a big issue, that will help with the consistency in terms of our game time. And then they start to really transition into really, with Ireland coming down and they're already putting it out there, we're going to beat these guys. Think, good on you, mate. And they wouldn't say such things without them really thinking. Well, they'll be thinking about what we did last year, but that was last year. This year is going to be different, and it's good. Let them come down, let them think that, because there's no way that we're going to let these guys, take us out again. And it will be a great battle this year, because it will set us up for the world stage and when we get ready to go into the World Cup and so forth. But I think guys like I'll say it again, Dalton Papali'i, he's gonna do really, really well, and
he's knocking on that door, number 7, eh? I guess that's a good thing for Sam Cane's, a little bit of competition for him.
Yeah, yep. and that's always going to be really rich. It's always going to be a contentious battle. But you can also see with Sam Cane is that there's a the battle between them. There's a gap there between them, but it's also narrowing down. So I mean, having two hardened sevens are going to be good, because eventually Sam's this probably be his last year as once the World Cup's done, that might be it. He's done. At least you've got somebody coming through the pipeline and stuff. But I think if there's anything I would say about the Blues, they really do need this confidence. They really need this to kind of seal for the last how many years, Yep, you guys won the cup last year. Given it was just only, I think,
asterisk season, was it?
Yeah, it was. We all knew, like, oh yeah, okay, let's give it to the Blues. Let's give it to the Blues.
I remember when the Brumbies won their one, Australia, and they called them Super Rugby champions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, okay, and it's like, no, you're super champions in your mind, and the rest of us are going, oh yeah, all right. But this one here, I think, is really good because, this weekend I think everyone's over in Australia, and they get to really start to play with against the Australian teams and.
All in 3 days, all in the same stadium,
something like that, yeah.
In Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah, so that's good for both countries, and everyone else, including Fiji, and so forth. But going back to your question, what I like the Chiefs. I think for me, it's just purely that they're like the underdog, because I know that we haven't got it down packed, and so I'm always on the edge when we're playing. So to win for me, it's like, man, that's good, but scratchy. But it's good. And you play against the big boys, you get shut down, 25-0. That's a great achievement,
Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, how did you start off this journey of doing this Facebook page and showing your meals? And I get it. I get it. Chiefs has an identity. They've always had one, even when Wax was down there playing, like they had identity. Blues had no identity for a long time. I mean, they swapped their first fives every year, like different. I think we went through 20 first fives and in 6-7 seasons. I was like, oh man, we had no identity. Now we do, because we show it with our defense now, and we grind our wins now. I noticed that win against Crusaders was a grind, and Crusaders had all the firepower, but we stopped them. Our defense stopped them.
Yep.
So.
And that's a real credit to the culture. It's a credit to the guys. Now, I mean,
it took a Crusaders to come and teach us how to play rugby.
Well, it took a Crusaders coach to come and teach you guys how to play rugby. So it's and then you had Sonny Bill Williams, who for the most part spent on the sideline, and that's the thing, is that you get all these players, but it's like anything else. Unless you know how to harness them, it's really difficult, and maybe that's part of that identity crisis that the team has gone through, and now they finally have found their voice, or they've always had their voice, but it just didn't quite come together when it really needed to, maybe if I preface it that way, that they've always had a voice, but it kind of maybe got mixed up with a whole lot of other things, and where it really counted, they didn't quite come together like they should have, and so forth. But that's different now. That's truly, and I think that's been in the making for the last couple of years. If you look at how well you guys performed last year, that was really awesome, and people were coming, and then kind of changed when we went into COVID, and it just sort of, things went a little bit south for everyone, I mean, when you think about the Chiefs in the beginning of 2020, we were doing well in the Super Rugby, and then as soon as COVID kicked in, we lost every game from there onwards until we came back into last year's, and we played against you guys, and we finally won our first game, and then we were on the roll going through, sort of thing. And so now it's the Chiefs, now it's the Blues that are on that, on the up and up, and it's how then do we continue that? Because that's going to be, and this is new territory for a lot of the guys, not for the club because they've been there before, but it'd be new for a lot of the guys, and how to maintain that level of intensity, given that, that game that you guys had on the weekend was a nail biter. And I'm as much as I wanted you guys to lose, because it was like, you deserve to lose, because when you give away and you sit there and start kicking the ball, lose. But then, you've got players that just played a defensive game that was, second to none. Taking out a guy that really, he shouldn't have been in there in the first place, that lock. But at the end of the day, you got two guys tackling him out. You got your captain, you got Yuriko there, and that was probably the key moment for the Blues.
Think about that try saver.
Yeah, the try saver. Because if it takes two people to tackle one small guy, why not? Sort of thing. Because if it was Silver Reese, you'd need 10 guys to tackle that fella, because he would just run around all over you guys, sort of thing, and stuff. So,
Sonny, man, I'm glad you're here, because I first saw you with your website, or not website, on your Facebook page. What was on it was you posting up just your dinners. Just your home cooked meals. You've got a veggie garden at home, and you're filming that. And you were just doing this every time. Every post was about that, just promoting healthy eating. And look, it seems like to me living a healthy lifestyle, like actually cooking your food, not getting takeaways, that sort of thing. So,
okay, so it's Polynesian Health Support, and our motto is DNA, do nothing average. It started off because I got quite big, like up to maybe 146 to 150 kgs plus, and it was really doing my head in. And so my friend just sort of said, look, let's get into a bit of a health buzz and try and eat healthy and so forth. So I thought, oh well, what should we do? And they said, oh well, we can look at what we're eating and how we can be a little bit more measured with the way we eat and what we eat, how we eat it. And so I thought, I just thought, I'll just take photos of what I'm eating. But at first, it was like trying to look at what we were eating and then maybe making more practical, because, it's not something that, eating healthy is sometimes boring, And so for me, it was like, oh, well, why don't we just take what we've got? Like, for example, cabbage. Eating cabbage doesn't sort of entertain people's muckers, let alone their. It was like, what the heck, we're going to eat cabbage. But I discovered, partly through my wife, was that actually if you can eat, 460 grams of cabbage, you just put it into the frying pan, add butter, salt and pepper, some spices and stuff. You'd be surprised how tasty that is, and how filling, and how nutritional it is for you. So I just sort of thought, okay, well, I'm gonna look at the fridge and look at to say, it's expensive to buy fruit. It's expensive to buy veggies. My wife's a gardener, not me. I just go out there and just funga, funga the hose. Yeah, I'm the gardener. My wife goes, oh yeah, he's the gardener because he went and watered the garden. I said, hey, everyone's got a job here, buddy. Is
that disclosed in the video?
Yeah. Oh no, it's not disclosed in the video, and it's not disclosed in here. And so I just thought, oh yeah, we'll go out there and do that. And we started eating from the garden, and I thought, oh yeah, this is pretty good. I actually enjoyed going. It was quite refreshing. You think, oh, these Palangi people, they talk to these plants. What's wrong with them? And I'm like, hey man, looking good because I'm going to eat you, and stuff. And then it was kind of like eating what you grew, and becoming a little bit more conscious about what you eat. Now, because this is something that I would invite people to come along, and I'd ask them to comment. Most of our people on here are quite shy; they don't say anything.
Yeah.
Although do an emoji and things. So I didn't really want to say, hey, this is what you want to do. So when I was really fit and I was really down to like 118 kgs and stuff, I was going really well, enjoying it. And I think this is the part that I wanted to share tonight, and that is when sometimes things happen, something happens in your life, sometimes the things that you're trying to maintain goes out the window. And so when I lost someone very dear to me, all that I had done just literally went out the window. And I could see, the weight started to come on. I was not happy, was really getting, going back to where I was before. And, I look at that page of mine. And so I was running up and down Waikamete Cemetery, that hill was my maunga. I was running up and down like 2, maybe 3 times a day, or at least twice a day, in the morning and the afternoon. I was loving it, just enjoying all the running and running up and down stairs and just, making it enjoyable. And of course, when you eat, you want to eat healthy, it's just, if you're going to eat it, you're going to have to wear it. So there's times that I eat something I shouldn't eat, and it's all right, I just burn it off. But when I lost this very dear person to me, those things didn't become a priority in my life. And I guess that's what I wanted to kind of highlight here, is that where I am today versus a year ago, and even maybe a year and 6 months ago, is not where I would thought was not where I was before. But what this page has done to me is just reminding me, hey, it's okay, just do it a little bit at a time. So I'm always having to I'm conscious of what I eat, but I'm also mindful that when you eat what you're going to eat, it's no point fighting it. You just go with it and reset yourself the next day. So right now I've got all my grandkids at home. If I introduce this food to them, they'll probably get up and do a haka because all Māori little brats. So, we got everything that's in the house. That's not illegal. That's unhealthy. See? Illegal, see? And so you name it, it's all there. And I'm telling them, I said to my daughter, hey, when you guys go back down to Kirikiriroa, back to the Chiefs land, waku mamea ia, and put them in the car, and I don't care, I don't want to see it. So, the cookies, because I'll end up eating it. Let's be honest here. You might see me take a photo here. You don't know that behind the scene, all the cookies and everything and stuff. And so I've learned that it's not when you're at your best that you want to take the photos. Look how handsome looking I am, but it's actually in the real difficult times that to show that, hey, this is real. Rampage has this really cool saying, the struggle is real, and it will continue to be real for me. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't care that others do. Good on them. I've got friends that drink and smoke to the, cows come home. Some of them are my best friends, but I do eat, and sometimes I eat more than someone that drinks. Which is why I have this battle with eating. Because I love to eat and I love to cook, but I also know that it's about how to, kind of temper things. Keep things as best as possible balanced. But I think for me, balancing also is be real with your environment. And you're back home and mum and dad says, yeah, well, and you want to say to them, I don't want to eat that. You're going to end up with a bottle on your head, or the paka melo forehead, because and so it's, you just have to be agile, sort of thing. But for me right now, it's doing the best that I can with the view. For me, it's with the view to drop. I think for me, it's just the eating side is really important. What we eat in the morning, what we try to eat in the afternoon, in the evening. Simple things like don't eat red meat at night because it's hard for your body to process it. So eat, if you're going to have protein, red meat, have it during the day, like maybe a little bit for breakfast, load up on in lunchtime, and then in the evening, have white meat. So those things are really easy to remember. Cut back on carbs. I don't say get rid of it. Well, because at the end of the day, a little bit of carbs is okay. Even like during COVID, we had all the veggies, and I realized, man, there's only so many veggies you can eat. And you know what? I can't eat anymore. So you just have to kind of adjust. But one of the things that is cool about this little Facebook page is you just get to experiment what you never thought. You might not be a great cook, but you know what? You'll learn. Because there's two things. You're either going to burn water, or you're going to learn that water is going to be a great part of cooking. Put your veggies or your different protein in there, and if you burn, you'll learn. Oh, maybe I should turn the element down a little bit, or watch what I'm doing. And so it's just like anything else. You just learn through experience, learn through trying, and so forth. And the thing about eating healthy also is that your best, what really makes meals really appealing is taste. So all the different herbs and spices, use them, because from that you'll figure out what you like, and from that you can turn something bland into beautiful. Sometimes we're too busy trying to make it look good, and then you got to eat it solely. What the heck? And it's like sometimes I get, I'm too busy trying to make it look good, and then I thought, no, you got to make sure that it tastes great as well, or else you're going to see the same picture that you took before you ate the food. It's the same picture that you're looking at, because no one wants to touch the food because it doesn't taste great.
That makes sense to me. Like when you said about the cabbage, when you cut up the cabbage, put it in the frying pan, throw in some salt and pepper, try some paprika, or chuck in something.
That's
just
right.
Just experiment.
But the key to it is your butter or a little bit of oil, because when you put in butter or oil, it fuses things together, and then you add your salt, your pepper, paprika, whatever, just a little bit at a time, and you'll find that you down 460 grams of that puppy, he ain't gonna be hungry. And if it doesn't taste great, it's because you didn't put enough in there. So tasting is quite an essential part of your cooking, and you don't have to have a lot. So for me, as a way to put my protein into, or like as a way to put meat away, so I weigh everything. So one of the other cool ingredients is have a little weighing machine. So if I go to buy steak, say for example, you buy a whole steak, it costs maybe between $98 to $100, maybe $120. That's pretty expensive. But when you weigh the steak, say like at 140 grams, you're going to get almost 20 slices. And you think about that, 2 of those in one bag. So other things that you can get is little plastic zip bags. You have you mark everything. So when you have like 2 of those, 140 grams each, that's two almost 300 gram steaks. If you eat, you defrost those 2, that's a whole meal for you and your family, or you and your partner. But what I'm saying is that you can measure how much you weigh and how much you eat, and you'll find that it will go a long, long way. So there are bags of meat that I've got that are 80 grams for my wife, because in the morning, just, protein on itself is fine, but for lunch, you can have up to like 120, which is too much for her, but for me, 120, 130 of protein, plus 400, 500 grams of vegetables. That's a powerful meal right there. And then in the evening, no red meat. So you can have red meat like 3 times a week. You pick which day you want to do it, and then the rest is white. The part that is expensive is when we don't plan our meals, because then you'll eat anything, buy anything.
True, because you're weighing it.
Yeah.
So you automatically know how much you need the whole week.
That's right. And so when you look at it and say, but man, if you want to put it into parity, you go to McDonald's and buy, Big Macs that's upsized. That's like $15, with a drink and stuff, give or take. You times that, how many times you do that during the week, that's 36. That's almost, $60 right there. You get a massive slab of steak. You think, I'm paying $120. You go to the restaurant, say like down to on Lincoln Road to what's that place there by Te Wananga Aotearoa? It's a really nice place. It's that Spanish place, whatever they call it themselves.
Oh, Chico's?
Yeah, Chico's, or there's Chico's, or just slipped my head. But they pay like $35-40 for a 300-gram steak. Okay, that's $45 or $35 to $40. When I look at that and I look at what I've paid for, you're making and you're getting more for your money this way. You're controlling what you're eating because you want to almost teach yourself to reduce the intake of food but replace it with good food. And so if your cabbage is what you have, or cucumber, or lettuce, they can go a long way. It's just a matter of just experimenting. And so you won't know what you're really like until you try. That's why cooking is such an important part of our day. Even if you cook it the night before and get everything ready for the next day, at least you've done that. Because when you go to work, you're going to have money to buy things. But when you look at, I went to a place to eat and I knew I paid a bit more than what I would have paid for. But I wanted to try it out, and I realized afterwards, oh, well, that was a good maele. Yeah, okay, now no more. I'll bring my own fish in and stuff, So this part here is, if you can get your eating right, then everything else is easy, because once you've managed your eating, then the weight will drop. And then the other part that you haven't seen, but if you scroll right back, you'll see all the running and stuff. So I'm not at that stage where I've dropped enough weight for me to start running, and that would be the second part of the Do Nothing Average, which is the combination of eating well, exercise, and then after exercise, how do you incorporate it into your everyday living? So it's not the fact that I can run up and down a hill. That's not the point. It's the point that you can do exercise without hurting yourself, which is where we kind of get ourselves in a bit of a tangle. We want to eat well. We got to exercise. We might be a little bit too big. Our joints are a little bit, the sensitive, and we do more damage to ourselves than we really want to. And so eating is probably the first part. Get that part right, everything else will follow, and so forth. And that's what I meant by do nothing average. Do a little bit of here, and then you can do a little bit more going down the track. So I've been there, and now I'm back at square one, re-going through the whole thing, And for me, that's the real part of just being, just being consistent and trying to get back on track so that I can, get to where I was before, because I need to and I want to. But I also know that it's always harder the second and the third time around. I was reading a little bit of an article on Richard Kahui, played for the Chiefs.
He's on force now.
Yeah,
it's like 30-something.
Yeah,
playing on the wing.
Playing on the wing and stuff. Yeah, but he talked about when he got injured in 2012 and they won their Super 12 or the under Dave Rennie, and he got injured on the last game, did a shoulder, and then he talks about how he was crying in the changing room because he had to go back through that same pattern of rehab and wasn't quite sure if his body could handle it, and the trauma and the mental strain and everything. And it's like, we don't see those things, but, not that I'm a super athlete, but I know what it's like when you hurt yourself and you go through all that. But can imagine if you're at a professional level and it's just probably 10 times worse, And so I was reading what he was sharing in the paper last night, and I could just only imagine what he was experiencing, similar to what I've been experiencing in the last year or so, getting back on that horse and then just trying, and then, you're kind of there, but you're not there, and then you like fall off the horse and you're like, oh man, I don't want to go back on this. I keep saying, well, man, this is so hard, but you just gotta keep going. I guess my point that I wanted to share here was that it doesn't matter where you start, as long as you start. It doesn't matter if you fall off that horse. Man, if you got to get up and pick up the horse, then pick up the horse, whatever it takes to get to your desired goal,
What if that cycle happens every week, like me?
Well, and that's like me too, and I guess that's part of the cycle, How do you break it? Well, here's the thing, it's really comes down to us as individuals, but you know what I have found, and there's truth in that, and there's when no one can tell us when we're ready. The only person that can tell us when we're ready is when we're ready. And when we are ready, it doesn't matter what's in front of us. We will do what it takes to get there. Even though it might take like 10 goes at trying going backwards and forward, I think that's important to recognize that that's just how things are. But maybe it's the 11th or 12th time that you're trying that's going to get you to spark up and go. And that's where I am. That's exactly where I am right now, and I think that I wanted to share that with people because that's sometimes the reality of what we're faced. It's going to take how many times to get there. It's that effort of trying, and if it's every week, it's every week. But you're breaking the cycle by trying to make a difference.
It's interesting how you said, like, because you experienced death in your life that sort of changed your attitude towards, want to get healthy and get on the horse. That it takes something like that. But I remember, like, for me, because I've had a health event in my life in the past, like, I almost died because of it. I had a major operation, and something like that, you come out of it and you say, okay, I'm not going to do that ever again. I'm going to make sure I'm healthy. And then, you feel better, and you're all right. And then you go back to your old ways because you're all right until something bad happens again. But for me, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this cycle every month. I'm back. I'm doing the same cycle, doing the same thing. I say I'm going to be healthy. I do it for a week and then I'm back on my old ways again. And then I start again 2 weeks later because I'm thinking, okay, it's like I'm procrastinating. It's like I'm saying, okay, just one more burger, or just one more fish and chips, or just one more, just one more, because I'm alright, I feel fine. I'm not gonna get a heart attack because I feel fine. Just one more burger.
I get that. I totally understand where you're coming from, and living that is it's a real challenge, and it really comes down to the discipline that we need to, I guess, apply, because it really does. It's that psychological edge that we feel when we know we've done something really good, and like, oh, I'm just gonna enjoy a little bit. The problem is the little bit becomes like going right back to square one again. So you're not alone in that department. And I think that's definitely a blues trait that we're trying to break. Just come to the Chiefs and we'll give you the handkerchief that I need to, help myself as well. So, no. There's no secret to this. It comes down to discipline as well, and trying to hold on to that line when you've done really well, and like, okay, you got to kind of push on, and like. Hopefully, once my grandkids go, in the next, 6 weeks, maybe in the next 6 to 8 weeks, when we catch up again, hopefully you'll see the transformation that needs to happen. But when that transformation happens, the other thing I also recognize, don't get cocky. Don't all of a sudden feel, oi, sole, selo olele, and like, mate, I'm the same person as before. Just because you look like that, and me and my other friend, he's looking scucks and like suddenly, you might have lost weight, but your humor is still muffled as anything, And so that's another thing, people just see, oh man, that guy's looking good. But the looking good part is secondary to the way you feel, And sometimes, even the most slimmest of people or the most fittest people, or they look really great, are sometimes the most unhappy people. And so sometimes the biggest people, or those that are not maybe physically, in shape, they're happy because they're in a happy space where they are. And it's so it becomes less about looking that part. Hopefully our intentions are pure, that it's about our well-being. It becomes, and that's why doing it together with your family or with your wife or your partner is really important, because you have to consider their thoughts and their feelings as well, and it's tough. I know it's not easy. So it's working together is harder than doing it by yourself, so to speak, because you have to be considerate of their situation. And, a man versus a woman is never going to be an even race, because we're just physically and every other way we're different. And so you want to, if you can, you really want to try and do this together as a family, and just a little bit at a time, But again, everyone's situation is different. What I do know is people need to eat, and we do have choices. And sometimes the choices in front of us is not even a choice. It's almost like, well, I either feed my kids for $10 on this, or you want me to pay $10 on healthy, and it looks like that. It's not going to happen. So, and I get that, Ele feel when you're backed up against the wall, and best that you can do is, what you can afford. And I guess that's where, if you've got some space, create a garden. It's not that hard. It just takes effort, with a bit of, watering, and buy the seeds from Mitre 10 or Bunnings. Go out there and plant your garden. You might be surprised what you can grow out there and what you can save. And that may start a more healthier lifestyle sort of thing. Even if we eat kalo and pisupo, it might be, well, the pisupo might be less of the pisupo, so to speak, or we get, we just change the way that we cook our foods with less fat, and looking at healthier options, But that's not easy, because that's the way that our family's been brought up, I know when I'm at home, mum and dad, or if I go to my auntie and uncle's house, man, don't even think about, oh yeah, let's have a lettuce and a cucumber. You're going to eat the lettuce and the cucumber with your chief,
It's funny, because if you look at the typical supper,
oh yeah,
that's just all carbs.
Oh yeah, if there's
like everything in there, it's carbs.
If there's no carbs, man, then like everyone's hika. Like, Sonny, are we come out, carbs? Stop hiding from me. I know this is not Halloween, and that's part of the challenge is changing our mindset. It's not easy, and I guess that's sort of one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of see if we could address those challenges by keeping my meals really simple. Technically speaking, you can do it in 20 minutes. Cook it, bang, no fuss, no muss, onions, even your peppers, throw in some meat and add some salt and pepper or whatever and cook it, and you'll be surprised how filling it is when you're eating something that's really a lot more healthier.
And that's why I was glad when I came across your Facebook page, because like I said, like if anyone knows your Facebook page, it's just you cooking, right? And that's inspiring, because I'm the one that, like, if I'm lazy to cook, I'll just go get some takeaways for the family. It's the easy way out.
We're all the same.
But like all the ingredients are there.
Yeah.
For me to chop it up and just throw it in, and do. But it's that, I don't know. But when I look at your page, it just makes me want to cook. You know, that's because I really like to cook, but I'm also lazy too.
Yeah,
so.
and I know the feeling too. You know, and even when you go to takeaways, and I enjoy my takeaways, don't get me wrong, but I also know that, man, I could make a better burger than this. But it just takes a bit of effort and time, you know, and so forth. And you know, that part about experimenting, that's really, really, really key, because when you know when you discover what you like that you didn't know before, you just want to share it. And that's why I cook as well. I want to, like, my kids are all older, and so they're not, you know, we don't have them at home, but when they come over, I try and cook for them, or I cook what I've taken a photo, and they're like, oh man, that's really nice. And then they get to eat and like, man, that was really nice. I'm like, yeah, man, nice if you left the tip there, because all I see is nice, and who's paying for this? And my kids say, it's like, oh, come on, Dad, no, hurry up, stole your Māoris. And my kids are part Māori and stuff, but I think, you know, and the cooking comes from my dad. Well, as you know, our dad's a cook, so, you know, my mum ever cooked, bless her soul. I'm going to memories of, man, Mum, stick to your singer pies and your, you know, keke lima, and even then we're over it, you know.
And our household was, if it came to subsweet, Dad had to cook it.
Oh yeah. Don't even touch it, Mum. No. Oh, I see. No, that's the reason we're gonna have a local today, tomorrow, and the next day, you know, and stuff. But no, and so my brothers are much better cooks than I am. Like, they know how to cook. In fact, I would never cook in front of them. They're like, hey, that's really good. I'm like, yeah, right, mate. I don't drink, but I'm going to think I'm going to have a vodka after that statement, sort of thing. But, yeah, look, it's, I think this particular COVID, it was just trying to keep it simple and show people you don't need a lot. You know, if you got a willing heart and you're keen to try, then little things that you should have at home, pepper, salt, you know, a knife, you know, even if you got a frying pan, might not be the best, but, you know, just a little bit of oil. And so I learned a little bit of oil is a little bit of oil, go a long way. And then just cook, you know. If you're not sure, then just look at what I've done, and then I've always put in there the little recipes, sort of like the repeat of the same things, you know. And then just, you know, encourage people, just try.
That first lockdown we had 2 years ago, in 2020, like when we had to stay, everyone had to stay home in 4 weeks, and only the supermarkets are open. Like, everyone was forced to cook.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That, I remember those 4 weeks, man. And we had no choice; we had to cook. But that time sort of fueled my fire to cook again, because I like to cook too. Yeah. I'm just one of those guys that get real lazy, but because we were forced to do it, man, it was good. It was a good time.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
and it's probably because, you know, we have to go to work, come home tired.
Yep.
But at least we're at home, we can just cook.
That's right. Yeah, and that's, I guess, part of the challenge is we get tired when we come home. You know, fighting traffic, work is work, and you come home and just, so I really don't want to cook, and then we'll just go to takeaways, and takeaways is like takeaway every day. And you're looking at, but you look like you ate the takeaways, and like I don't eat the takeaways. His two fingers said, does the cheese make me look skinny? Yeah, right. If you're about a mile away, maybe, this sort of thing, and it's indicative of the way that we live now. You know, we grew up in a time where, you know, it wasn't like this. You know, I think when I was growing up, it was lucky we had KFC. We had KFC, so it must have been at a wedding, because I wasn't getting it at home, and that sort of thing. You know, and suokaleve and elengi, that was the standard, and you had the sack of rice, and so you're not just cooking for yourself, you're cooking for your immediate family, and then my uncle and his 12 kids, and so those days were tough, you know, and so food had to last a lot longer, you know. So it wasn't like we had mamoe, it was bovi masima, and you know, there's only so much salt you can handle, and you just try to wash it out, and then you boil it, and then it becomes a fulfill. Yep, just add the tomato sauce. Oh, it's beautiful, you know.
Is there a blueprint to your ingredients you use, or what your meals? Like, is it like, some people follow diets and follow books and all that stuff, or is it because you talked about earlier breaking it down, making it simple, and to me, simple is just like whole foods. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
If it's organic or whole, if it's meat, veggies.
Yeah.
Then there's so many things you can do with meat and veggies.
Yeah. I think for me it was really looking at my own cupboard and saying, what's in here and that I didn't know. Oi soli, is that what that is? And so for me it was really this time around was looking at what was in the cupboard, and then I knew I had staple stuff. For example, I deliberately went and got my meat, and chicken and bags of different types of white meat, whether it was mussels or prawns or calamari. Yeah, that's like $20. That's not cheap. But then I thought again, I always compare it that McDonald's. I eat that McDonald's. I don't even think about it. But I knew that I would take all that stuff, and then I would weigh it, and I knew then for me, the amount of meat or the amount of protein I was eating was really important for me, to stick to like 100 grams in the morning and then maybe 150 and, no, that's way too much, 130 at lunchtime and then 120 maybe in the evening. So those things were really important, which is what I'm looking forward to once this holidays comes out. It's going right back to those core things. And then maxing it out with vegetables. And the vegetables don't have to be, you eat whatever you can eat. But I try to stay away from potatoes and kumara, all those sort of veggies, because they tend to put a bit of weight on. Because remember here, it is about trying to transition from where you are to a more healthier lifestyle. So there are some things that you have to try and do, and that is eat foods that will be able to get through your system really quickly and give you the nutrition that you need and so forth. The blueprint, like I said, don't eat any meat at night, especially red meat, and try not to eat after 7:30 at night. I don't always quite get there, but I know if I try to stick to it, that really helped. And drink lots and lots of water. Add things like lemon. You can get these little lemon packs from Pack and Save. Just add it to your water to take out that after when you drink a lot of water, it becomes quite metallic. So we add lemon or others. Also lemon and also what's that other olives? No, not olives. The little green kipolo. What do you call it? You got lemoli. Yeah, lime. So you can add that in just to change it up a little. What that does, it helps to increase your regular, helps you to flush things out. Your kidneys and your liver will love you because you just water and you're just flushing all these things out. When you don't eat red meat at night, the problem with red meat, it sits in there and it takes a long time to process. So remember, for me, it was like going from the size of a rugby ball down to like a tennis ball. That's what I was thinking. So when you do that, thinking, there's what happens to the big hole? You fill it with vegetables. Vegetables are easy to break down, good vegetables. And you use water to be able to help process that really quickly. Once your tummy starts to shrink and you eat, for, a good 44 days, and so forth, like that, you then start to train your mind to say, I don't really need to eat a 300-gram steak. I can get away with 120. Even if I go to the restaurant and they give me a 300, I'll just keep it in half and I'll save it, take it home, eat that the next day. So you're still eating, but you're eating better. And what happens is as you decrease the size of your meals or your intake, your stomach will shrink and you'll get less, and you won't be so hungry for things that you shouldn't really eat. And you might treat yourself here and there, and you're like, yeah, that's okay. And then after that, it's like, I've had my treat, and you just carry on. And then as you get better and better, you can start mixing your meals with a little bit more vegetables, different types of vegetables and things. But you constantly monitor what you eat, and that helps with your psychological thinking, because if I don't eat this, I don't have to carry it the next day. If I hold back, that's where that drive, like, oh, I can do this. You put on your clothes, like, whoa, this is amazing. You feel better. And then you helping, if your wife is with you, like, you're helping each other. There's a glow about you. There's this amazing feeling of, man, we're really accomplishing something as a couple, as being Polynesian. We're renowned for being big eaters, big people. You can still eat, don't get me wrong, but you may not be eating so much. You might be just eating a little bit, still enjoying it and stuff, because you don't want to starve yourself. That's dumb. You're just going to end up gorging, But it's about almost holding back for now until you can get your weight and everything down. And once you do, then you come back to enjoy a little bit more here and there. And you're just your blueprint is being able to walk without feeling sore, to sleep much better, spending more time with the kids. I'm not so grumpy. I have a lot more energy. Go to work, I'm clear in my head. I come home, man, I've got energy, all those sort of things. Might be able to do some golf, go to a rugby match and watch the Chiefs. And, well, they did drop the ball only once compared to the Blues, who dropped it 10 times, and they still won the damn game, sort of thing.
So, man, I remember the energy, man. I remember the energy now. I remember it. Because I went on a half journey a few years ago, and I managed to drop 25K. And then, because my goal was to get down to 99.
Yep, you and I the same. Yep.
I haven't been to 99 since high school, man.
Well, it's time for us to go back to 99,
And then I actually made it to 100, and that was it. And then went back up again. But, man, I remember feeling good. I remember that energy, It's a good feeling. You wake up early and just out. You're just not tired when you wake up.
And it just, and then when things do hit us, something happens, you just got to go with the flow. That's just how it is. And then things will change back. And when they do, we have to draw on those experiences that we had before to remind us and to encourage us as well. I mean, I got pictures that I look and I cringe and think, but then I think, hang on, that was then, this is now. We just got to take one day at a time, 1 week at a time, a fortnight at a time, a month at a time. And it's not a rush. This is a journey, and part of that is bringing others along. For me, it was more, I just invited my friends and they're like, what the heck is this? I didn't say anything, just jump on board, and they start to see, oh, I'm cooking and stuff. And, hopefully it encourages others to try and cook, even if it's something basic as boiling, cabbage or broccoli, or, and just seeing what you can do with broccoli is amazing. Really simple,
Is it true if you cook broccoli too much, will the nutrients go? The nutrients.
What was that?
Go when you cook broccoli too much. The nutrients go.
Yeah, I think it's like anything else. You don't want to overcook it. I mean, for me, like if you have broccoli or bok choy, broccoli is a good way to have your broccoli is boil the water, and then what you want to do is you cut your broccoli into small bits, and then just put it into the ulu, and then take it out straight away. What's the word they call it? It's almost like you're just splashing it in hot water for short, and then you pull it out. And you can tell by looking at the color. All right, as soon as it changes to real rich green, it's ready to go. Pull it out. So it doesn't don't let it sit there and it becomes real soggy. You just it's like a flash in there, and then you pull it out. When you do that, there are several options that you can do. You can then throw it into the frying pan, add some garlic butter in there and salt and everything, and they can eat with your meat. And that's really like, man, this is a good way to eat broccoli, because broccoli is not exactly the flavor of the month. And then you get something like cauliflower. It's like, holy mackerel, I can only eat that with flipping cheese. But the same thing, you cut it up, you know, and you can throw it into the ulu, and you know, or you could just fry it, you know, flip it, keep turning it, you know, let it char a little, add some butter and stuff in there, because you want to flavorize your food. Those things, when done well, they're beautiful, and yet they're the worst things to eat on itself. Just like celery, you know, try drinking that every morning.
Drinking celery. Oh, I love celery.
Yeah,
I
good.
love how it was crunchy.
Yeah. So
and I remember my auntie put it on chops of it and chopped it up, puts it in her
blender.
Sapasui.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yeah,
You read that with little
yeah,
carrot and fuck,
yeah.
the crunch, man, I love it.
Yeah. So, you know, you just have to, you know, look at those sort of things, because those are good veggies to have. You know, lettuce, broccoli, bok choy. You know, again, you'll see in some of the pictures that it's sometimes the base of the meal. I've cooked it, I boiled it, and then I use it to, when I plate your meal, and it sits on the bottom, and then you put the other things on top. You know, those sort of things are really nice when you add your different spices to it, because it's really tough when you eat something that looks beautiful but doesn't taste well. It means that you haven't taken time to taste what you're cooking, because you're busy trying to cook. So you've got to learn to taste, cook, taste, and when you get that right taste, which comes with experimenting, then you know how much to put in and how high you want to cook the meal, and you know, in terms of temperature. And then once it's ready to go, it's just get it out, plate it. You know, when you got to plate your food, for me, that's the part that's really critical. You know, making sure that it's looking good, but knowing that you've tasted all the way through, rather than waiting and go to serve it and then like, oh yeah, that was okay. You're like, so you know, and then you think, oh yeah, you're right. I can't, if I haven't tasted it and I expect them to like it. It's a hard day at the office, sort of thing, you know. So, and I guess that's where the DNA comes in. You know, do nothing average. You know, it's in our DNA to do better than what we, you know, to produce the best version of ourselves. And that might be just as simple as, you know, holding back from eating that chocolate bar. You know, maybe if I'm going to have a burger, I'm going to have it during the day, not in the evening, you know. Maybe I just eat my chips and stuff earlier, let it process, or I cut back, pull back, you know. And you know yourself what you can, what you don't want to eat. You know, when you're eating some of the naughty foods that we shouldn't, and we're eating solid, this is terrible. I love it, pepper cake. Oh yeah, one packet later, oh man, I feel really bad. And you wake up, like suddenly. I don't think the mangava is the issue here. It might be your limas that is going into the pantry all the time, sort of thing. So
there's places like when you go to the movies, like you can't go to movies without popcorn.
That's true.
Drink. Like they get that, have that problem.
Yeah, I do. You know, it's a tough one because you know, when I'm at my element, I won't eat the popcorn. But when I'm still trying to figure out, I'm eating the popcorn like it's the last popcorn that, you know, Last Supper sort of thing, you know. And then you come out, so I feel really bad, eh? Can't be that bad because all the popcorn's are still around your mouth and on the chair, eh? So it's a tough one. Like you say, we went to the movies last night with the kids, and I said to my grandson, make sure you bring all the goodies. And we get to the movies, Sonny, where's all the goodies? Oh, I just shook my head. We went in there. You know, he's sitting there. Who goes to the movies and sits in there and there's no popcorn, no drink? My wife said, go to the counter and go get some popcorn. I was going, what, I want to pay $10. So I walked all the way to the countdown and, you know, $70 later came back and I was thinking, how am I going to get through here? You know.
Man, when did going to movies become so expensive? Like, $70 to watch a movie and all the foods cost more than the movie ticket.
No. The grand goes, oh man, this is great. I'm like, yeah, it'll be great when you go back to your parents and stop now. So, you know, it's a tough one, eh? You know.
You know, I feel like you're like someone, you know, advocating for healthy eating. There's a lot of podcasts out there, a lot of people on social media that doing stuff in the gym, like exercising, like training. A lot of influencers doing training and that. You don't see hardly anyone talking about food. I feel like you're one of the guys, maybe one or two out there, I don't know, but you're probably the only guy I've seen just talking about food, healthy food. And when you talk about, when you hear that saying, I think there's a percentage they talk about, like if you want to be healthy, 20% is exercise, 80% is, I don't know if that's the right percentage, 20% exercise, 80% is what you eat. So, and if you look at those stats, 80% is huge. And there's no one out there talking about it or doing stuff or showing people how to eat and all of that. Maybe they are, but I haven't seen anyone quite like you and your page doing it on the daily, and that's and you're being perseverant because when you talk about perseverance, we've got a problem with obesity, and our death rates are low. Our death ages are low, compared to the Palangis and stuff. But it's all that. It just seems that there's not much out there for people to see someone that's doing well eating and showing you how to eat well. Well, you might be the only person.
Well, I can say to you that after this, I'll be definitely going back on track so that when I come back to you, I can show you what it looks like as well. But I think also at the same time, it is so true, and having been down that track, and that's why I want to say, having been down that track doesn't mean that you're going to stay on track. It's really trying to, it's a lifestyle, but that lifestyle can't be just you. It has to be part of your ainga, part of your environment. There's nothing worse when you're looking good and your family are looking like, so they look like death warmed up on you. So, and that's more challenging. If it's just you, if we were single, but we're not. We have other responsibilities. And that's sometimes the challenge that because you want to bring, and how do you bring your whole ainga? And that's where, Talanoa is critical, sitting down and mapping this out. And what does it look like when your 5-year-old looks like he's 17 stone and he's like, I'm still hungry, and thinking, maybe hungry is not the issue here. Maybe you just need to change your habits and sort of thing. And so, I think if anything, and I guess when I listen to what you're sharing, there's a lot that I can do that's better. And this is one of the things that I want to, challenge myself after this is, okay, let's get back on the horse and let's get to that stage where I was before. And part of it was get through the eating side and then show to people you don't have to be a marathon runner, but by eating well, and then they can see the changes happening with me. This is us going through those changes. And what does that mean? And for me, it's like a little bit more exercise, whether it's walking, swimming, or whatever. But you can do it. But until I get my eating right, I can't go to the next stage. And that's why I'm really excited about after this. Like, okay, go home, eat all those biscuits, eat everything else, and then come the new month. Let's go. Well, my heart attack. Yeah, very good there, Tagaloa, sort of thing. So, I never thought of it that way. So I just, I just think now when I think about what you're saying, I never thought of it that way,
Yeah, because when you started the page, like at some point you probably thought to yourself, okay, I need to do this. I need to inspire people or put it out there for people to look and just encourage healthy eating, healthy lifestyle, and that. Yeah. Or was it in the beginning something for you to be accountable?
Oh yeah,
make yourself
sorry.
accountable?
Very good point there. Very good point there, Cam. Part of it was, I needed to be held accountable, which is why I kind of put myself out there because, it's a bit scary, you're saying and do one thing and then, did you eat the trainer too? Because I can't see any difference between you now and the last time. So that was part of what I was doing, was being accountable to those that were coming onto the page and stuff. I slightly have been accountable, but not as strict as I could have been. And so that's what kept me honest all the time. This round, I sort of was 50-50. But I know now going forward, and thank you for reminding me that part of that accountability is my weigh-in and how I look, and then journeying through the different stages as I drop my weight and so forth. But again, not focusing on the weight, but using the weight as a way to measure yourself, and then but emphasizing how important it is to, eat smart. And if you do, and as you do, you'll find your rhythm. And then as a blessing from that, we lose 5 kgs, 10, 15, 20. We're just different. And then using that energy to then channel it to the next phase, and that is, exercise. But being careful, you don't want to then turn around and start lifting weights and try and be the He-Man, and it's like, that was never part of it. It's still trying to maintain balance. But I will admit that it's been tough this second round, because it's just been tough, yeah. And I think part of it is just the realities of life.
These challenges you face with the realities of life, like work comes into play, and just family. The one that sort of got insight on is how you said it's good to get all your whole family involved, because they're the ones living in your house.
Yep.
And we're eating the same food.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. So is that a challenge now, or is that have you overcome that?
No, I mean, I think it's still a challenge. Just making sure that, like, I could be really, I see things maybe different from, say, like my wife. And so it's just trying to find that happy medium space. So once I get into my routine, it's like, this is what we do. And if she doesn't do it, I've got to, I'll give allowances. You have to be, you have to be flexible enough to recognize that what she does is absolutely amazing in her eyes, because we're not the same. And so that's where that conversation between each other is important. And sometimes I will get it wrong because you haven't eaten what you should eat, and she's like, hey man, you're supposed to motivate me, but right now you're pulling me down. I'm like, oh, come on buddy, you need to harden up. And then you get into that, and really what you're trying to do is, we should be encouraging, lifting one another up, and you can't compare it to one another, because it's just never going to be the same. It's like comparing the All Blacks to the Blues, it's just not going to happen, just totally different levels, same goal in mind, but they will approach it differently. And so that's been the challenge for me to be mindful, be more considerate, be more understanding, even though my intentions are good. But it's like, when we're growing up, our parents mean well, and there's meaning well, and then actually the actual way of them doing it is like, I'm confused. You said I'm a good boy, but I'm getting sussed. I'm sussing you because I love you. I'm like, what kind of love is that? And it just creates another discussion of just roll with it sort of thing. So that's the challenge, even with my older kids. But again, because we don't live in the same house, I got to be careful. Don't think because I've lost the weight, I'm the man. Because again, I'm mindful that you get living, come off like, oh, this guy. Because I've accidentally done that, not realizing. Now that's why. So there are some things I'm really more conscious about now than I was 10 years ago. And just so that you become hopefully a model of encouragement, not discouragement, and so forth. So yeah, that would be the challenge. But the rest of the kids, my grandkids, they're all young and stuff. they're at that life where they can eat anything and nothing happens to them, and so there are some that are a little bit, they love a bit too much food, but I think as they get a little bit older, they'll burn it out, and they're active enough in their lives that should be okay and so forth. But yeah, that's me.
How are you finding social media, like in general, with healthy eating and who you follow and all that? Like,
I've been watching, because there's a lot of I watch a lot of cooking. Some of the chefs that are on there. There's one guy, he's really good, and his stuff, the way that they capture his
who's that?
I forgot his name, but he always ends up doing this. Yeah, he looks like a Mexican guy from the States, eh? But his food is good at the way it's captured, and everything is really quick, sharp, and to the point. So he's got a good person that videos everything, and the food is really nice. And so there's lots of foodies that I watch now, and then I joined some of the foodies, and I've just thrown my stuff on there, and to my surprise, like, man, that's pretty cool, and because it's really simple. My stuff is so simple, you this, that's it, boom, but
like a naked chef style, is he?
Well, hopefully not, because if it's a naked chef, it would have been sussed by my mother. Hey, so emo nakedness. Yeah, sort of thing. So, I think social media is good, use it in the right way, but there's, I think you had a chord there with regards to Pacifica, talking about our food. I mean, I want to also look at our Pacifica food, our kalo and bisupo and, oka and all that, and just say, well, actually, you can eat this. This is fine. You just how you prepare it and what you cook it with, So I haven't quite got to that stage yet, but that's certainly something now I'm thinking about where I want to kind of head. Like I do on mean sapasui, and I think I think it's mean. No one has complained yet, unless they're lying and they're saying, really, I'm a Blues fan, not a Chiefs, and then I'll cook. That's another story. But some of the foods that I see our Pacific people eating all the time, I'd like to relook at it and say, okay, well, how can we make this still appealing and taste great, but at the same time, how can we make it more healthier?
Yeah, especially down, especially like some parts out western, especially in South Auckland, every corner's like a takeaway.
Yeah, that's tough, man. It's the same out here,
But all the healthy foods are expensive. More expensive.
Well, yeah, and I guess I come back to that point where you can grow your own garden. You can grow things in your own backyard. Even if you don't have a backyard, just get a pot and grow some things. You'd be surprised. It just takes a bit of effort, but it's harder now. You look at a lot of the homes now they're not homes. They're blinking, units. On top of units, I don't know if they, it's not like they've got a space down to grow their own garden, so it becomes a bit of a challenge. But yeah, and it's always going to be a case, of what's healthy, but I think one thing to look at is like when there's when there's a hockey or something, we just all of a sudden pull out this money that I don't know where it came from. So I'm thinking, you should pull out that money and use it for other things, and you might be surprised that, oh, heck, you can still, okay, that probably a mute point. I'll take that back, I'll probably get home and get a rock thrown at me, sort of thing. So, yeah.
So, I just want to talk about your professional life now. So, you brought up doing the, where were you again? You're at university.
Yeah, so I worked for a university about 9 years, and I left there and then went into working in health with the DHBs and workforce management. And after that, I did some contract work, and then with the Map of Meaning, and then I went into mental health and addictions as a training facilitator. And right now, I'm just doing some back in doing hopefully some more map of meaning work as a practitioner, working with in this case, our Māori Pacific people and so forth. So
what is that map of meaning?
So it's almost like a reflection on who you are, on the things that that really are important to you. Let's open up my phone here so I can grab my notes here. So what we do is the focus is on you as a person. Things that are to do with like unity with others, service to others, expressing your full potential, and integrity with self. The map really is an opportunity for us to help those to discover or reaffirm to them the things that are meaningful in their lives around those 4 areas that we talked about. So
like what you value?
Yeah, the things that you grew up with, that are important to you as a person.
To anyone, not just...
Yeah, so this is the cool thing, is that the map is applicable to any culture. Just so happens that I've done a lot more work with our Pacifica and students in this work that we've done, and it really helped us to understand our especially our kupulanga, especially in the tertiary environment where you're competing with time, because you need time to do your assessments, assignments, exams, and if you're doing a clinical degree, then it's your clinical hours that you need to get up to meet the criteria to graduate in your respective profession, whether it's nursing, occupational therapy, physio, etc. And so in that, what you refer to as the academic pipeline, those are the things that are most important in terms of getting through your study of program, whether it's a 3-year degree or 4 or whatever. The challenge with that is in the workforce environment, there are some things that everyone has to cross over, and that is when you are close to finishing a degree or when you finish your degree, that the next step theoretically is that you would either go into employment or you may continue to go into further studies. So if you go into employment, you need to be able to produce, your CV, a cover letter, and you also would prepare yourself for an interview. Now, how that looks is totally different, because it could be a panel interview, it could be online interview, which we've seen recently with COVID. And so those are the things that you have to do all the time, whether you're going into a job, or even if you're applying for, a new role within the organization, maybe a supervisory role or management role and stuff. The thing that we know with our Pacifica especially is that we're not quite good at pitching ourselves. We either over-pitch or we under-pitch. But we also know that when you come into these roles where there's a huge demand for more Māori Pacifica, that you have to go through those particular points. You have to produce a CV, cover letter, and interview. And if your cover letter meets the standard and you get into an interview, we know also that we're not great at articulating and talking about ourselves. And we know why. It's just not in our nature. So what we created was trying to create what we call a safe space, safe place to be able to practice those things. And that's where the map came in. So the map came in after we recognized the work that we're doing, which was developing their CV skills, developing their interviewing skills, and sharing with them, this is what you need to be focused on. It wasn't until one student from MIT said to me, he said, Tagaloa, you told me to, make sure I, got my CV ready, and, I did, and even worked on, where what you've got, to the best of your ability, and you even shared with us, the sort of thing that you should be sharing, But when I look in the mirror, I don't even see any of that. Worse, I don't even feel like that. And that's when I recognized, oh, shoot, well, there's a missing part to this, you know. And it wasn't until my colleague Lisa said, oh, let's introduce you to the map of meaning. When we introduced the map of meaning, what that did was it actually focused on the things that are most meaningful to you as a Pacific Island or a Māori student. Things such as tikanga, alofa, fa'aloalo, things such as spirituality, culture, all the things, family, respect, all these wonderful and meaningful principles that we know within ourselves. But how do you articulate that in a non-Māori, non-Pacifica world or in a corporate setting?
Because I always felt there's a big clash.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and we can't handle it.
No, or they can't handle it.
Yeah, they can't handle it because they don't understand.
Yeah, and so that's where the map came in. And so as we talked about those different areas, and each student would receive a map, and they would write in there what's meaningful to them. That's, for example, I'll just bring up on my phone here. So unity with others, you know, or service to others. What does that mean? So when we talk about service to others, isn't it like, you know, helping out at church, helping mum and dad, helping our ainga that are really need help with maybe babysitting their children or taking over food and so forth, or in the community, you know, helping those that may be a little bit may not be as fortunate as us. Could be that we can provide some food, some blankets and so forth. And so as we went through each of these different quadrants and we talked about what's meaningless to you. That's really hard. We kind of talked to the students what that meant. And as they started to express what that meant, we then switched over and talked about what is meaningful to you. And that was much more easier, because when you can figure out what's meaningless, it's easier then to figure out what is meaningful. And we get our students to go through this, and it was a reflective exercise. It was a personal journey for them. So what you write and what I write, it's it, because it depends on where we are. But that was your journey that we would help you to uncover. And it also allowed them to be in touch with themselves, things that maybe we don't talk about it. If you think about the academic tunnel, there's no space in there for that sort of talanoa. There's no space in there to even have that chance to sit down and practice some of these things, because sometimes we're a little bit shy to be able to talk about what's really meaningful and to us. And so as we did this and spent time with them in the morning, we would take a break, and then afterwards we'd open up the floor and say, look, this is an opportunity for anyone who'd like to share their map. And as some of them would share their map, they were giving us permission to hear their world. And you would hear, as they talk about themselves, how other students would be connecting. And that's how I feel. That's me too. But unbeknownst to them, they didn't know that. You know, they didn't realize that some of the things that are so important to them were things that they may have thought, oh, it's just me. Or we reminded them, or we affirmed to them, these things that you have recognized and shared are things that are real to you. This is who you are. So when we talk about why did you want to be a nurse, it became, not to save the world and just to, because I need a job. It became more personal, because you could use the map to uncover or share the depth of where you're coming from. And it could be, I saw my mum who was not well, and the nurses there were so loving and caring of my mum that it inspired me to want to be like you, so I could help others in a similar situation. Or, you know, I had a really terrible experience when these people were supposed to look after my dad, and I promised myself that when I become a nurse or a physio, that I would be the best nurse or physio, so that what my father experienced, they would never experience from me. And so there were these different reasons that came out, and I was part of this, and I saw how that was such a moving experience. So when we finished doing the map, we then had our mock interviews, and I had the hiring managers come in, and they would come in, and I would give our students, here's a questionnaire you give to your potential employer for them to ask you.
So who was the mock? Who were they?
So they were managers from the different parts of the DHBs, physio, nurses. They'd come in, and I'd said, let's do these mock interviews. So
and there were Palangis?
All Palangis, yeah. Hardly any polys, And so when they had interviewed the kids, and I'd said to them, some of them never been interviewed, I said, it's okay, use your map to help you navigate those questions. I said, really? So yeah, take that in. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted them to experience before. Remember, you have to write a CV, you have to write a cover letter, you have to be interviewed. Those things you just can't get around. How they do it, in terms of what does it look like, that's different. But those are the things you have to do with any job. And so what we knew also is that because many of them would not do well in interviews because they never had the chance to practice these things or have the chance to do it in a place that was safe for them. This was something that was different that we wanted to do. And then at the same time, from an employer perspective, most of them never knew who these kids were because they were busy. It wasn't like we had 100,000 Polynesians graduating. There's only a handful, but by the time we got through the system, the only thing they saw was a CV, and they didn't know who they were. So by bringing them early in the piece, they could potentially see, here's the workforce that's coming through, and connect with these young people. And so we did that. When they went through the interviews, they were asking questions. So why do we want to be a nurse? They pull out their map, they look at it, and then they start talking about it. They did that for my last year with the DHBs. And when we finished that final year, 2018, and I did a little bit more in 2019, I asked the question of the employers, so how was that? And they said, man, that was amazing. I said, so what would you like to do? And they said, we wanted to hire all of them. I said, great. So what's stopping you? And they said, they're all first-year students. And I said to them, isn't that amazing? So you can learn technical skills, but these things that we're talking about, this is the stuff that really counts. So you're telling me, as a potential employer, you would hire these guys based on the time that you've spent with them, who may not have those skills as a third-year student, but you would hire them. And it was like, and it was a testament of what we were doing. And so after I finished my contract with the DHBs and stuff, I took a time out and only recently have just come back into doing this. And it's sort of like, work on the side that I'm wanting to do because of the significance of the impacts that I've seen with our Pasifika people. When you can inspire them, but more importantly, they can connect with what is important to them and they can talk about it because they realize that that's something that's me. Talk about my culture and my faith and then be able to channel that so that it becomes part of who they are and their storytelling. And they ask, who are you? And they're sharing with them their beliefs as a Christian, their beliefs as a Muslim, Pasifika, their beliefs in their family. That's what employers want to hear. Is
that's
the
right.
real you. They don't want to hear,
that's right. You got a degree and all that.
Because everyone else has got the same degree, sort of thing,
Yeah, it goes to like I heard the saying ages ago. Like, when you come out, all university is so when you come out of university, at least you know something.
Yeah.
About the job.
Yeah.
At least you know at least something.
Yeah.
Because the real learning starts when you start work.
Yeah.
I mean, that was an old saying that I heard, and that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think there's so much truth with regards to the things that we've been doing that we don't do well. We need to do well now, and that is we need to own our stories. We need to take back who we are and what we do as part of the almost like the navigation of our story as Pasifika. But unless we take time to identify what that is and reaffirm to us that actually all the things that my parents have taught me, all the things that I've grown up as a young man, young woman, to the point where I'm here, those things are part of who you are. The degree is not a definitive of who you are. That's just a nice add-on to it. So you can walk through there and say, this is why you're going to hire me. But to do that, you need to have that space to be able to practice this and just remind us. And so that's what the map does. It reflects on the things that are what we refer to as intrinsic values, the things that are deep within us that are important, that drive us. And sometimes we do things naturally, but we don't realize that actually that's who you are. And so it's about identifying those things and then being able to pull them out and not go to the interview and sort of saying, and you left all of your Pacific values, all of your Māori values at the front of that door because you think that's got nothing to do with here, but it has everything to do with here because that is who you are and that is what you bring. And that is an important part of your identity and how you stand on your waiwais, how you stand as a Samoan and how you stand as a Polynesian, or in this case could be as an Asian, etc., etc. And so the map of meaning literally is a map that always, because it's a living document, we could do this now and in 3 months' time come back. You can see where you were to where you are right now. And if you haven't moved, that's okay. We'll just start again. But if you have moved, then the map changes because it's a living document. So, for example, if you working at the casino and you started as a VIP hosting staff for the VIP lounge, and then you wanted to apply for the supervisory role, then we would go through this map of meaning exercise to be able to define and make sure what are the things that drive you and so forth, so that when you can see what it is that you're applying for, you can then talk about the things that are important. Why you want to go into that sort of role, why you want to go into management role, because those are different sort of lenses that you look through, and sometimes it's hard for us to see that because we're too busy, because we may not recognize that what we have is more than enough to complement the roles that this role has over here. And for a lot of our Pacifica people, we go into these. Vygotsky is a Russian psychologist, and I pulled this off a thesis I was reading from one Samoan student who did her doctorates, and it was talking about Samoan culture, I think around what it's like being a New Zealand-born Samoan versus, the Samoan culture. And I just remember this quote in there from this Russian psychologist, and he talks about the problem with, so you have formal learning, like a university environment, informal learning. And he says the problem with formal learning is that it does not allow the informal learning that we bring, which is life, into this context here. And I've seen so many of our kids, our students, they come in, they've got so much to add, so much richness. And I would dare say even more than just the average non-Māori, non-Pacific, because many of our students have had to learn to budget, they've had to learn to time keep, they've had to learn to schedule. When mum and dad are working, someone has to look after the house, someone has to look after the children, someone has to look after, do the cooking. All these things that we do, sometimes we don't know how does that fit into an academic arena, when in actual fact we've already done all those things. It's just that the things that we're doing is slightly different. Here you've got to do academic writing, here you've got to be able to do research, here you have to balance your time. And so there are things that we already do. Sometimes we just have to switch our lens and look at and see what are the parallels between what we bring into this world over here. And you'll be surprised what we can do based on what we have done in the previous. So as another example, my other good friend, Penina Felicia Mackay, who used to be an occupational therapist for WDHP, she had an older gentleman, one of our Samoan dads, as part of his rehabilitation, she wasn't quite sure how to help him because their Samoan was really weak. Like mine is weak. Hers was like really, really different, like weak. But she said to me, you know what came to my mind? I said, what? She goes, let's act out what it was like to prepare an umu. And I was like, what? And goes, yeah, I just talked to him about, well, how do you prepare an umu? And Koinga looked at her, says, yeah. And so he just acted it out, you know. Mei umale maa, mei umamenga prepare le umu, like the wood and everything. And so he acted everything out. What it did was he could do that because he understood, but it allowed him to be a lot more mobile. So I guess he had an operation. She was trying to increase his mobility and range, but it wasn't happening. So she connected the informal learning, so-called informal learning, it's actually formal learning, to this environment here. He could connect and then acted it out. As a byproduct of that, he was able to move. He was able to get better quickly because he wasn't restricting himself. So, you know, he may not have been able to move as much as he could before, but he knew if he just kept on practicing what it was like to prepare an umu, it got him going because he was able to connect and so forth. And that's what we were doing with the map of meaning. Was for some, it was reaffirming what they knew, and it was okay. Those things are okay. In fact, they're an important part of who you are. Or it was opening of something that they may have been connected with but didn't know how it worked. And all we were doing was just opening up the lid so that the sun could shine in and show to them, hey, this is okay, this is a starting point. And so many of those kids, many of those students, they'd go away from our sessions completely renewed, totally uplifted, and they would come back more and more when we would run those sessions. And, you know, they became better for it because they knew who they were. They weren't just talking about it. They were talking it from a space of genuineness. They believed in themselves, and they knew how to talk things through. The flip side is that our employers then started to recognize, oh, so here's Johnny and here's, Kasavalu, and they knew who they were and they were able to talk and know that. So when you came to an interview, no longer were you a stranger. They knew, oh, there's so-and-so. And so it was more about you making sure that you hit what they wanted you to talk about because we had practiced it before. So there was it would be you to fail, not them, because you had all this time to practice, and they talk to you about things that you wouldn't hear in a lecture theatre or in a book. That's the culture of what they're looking for. Those are the things, those skills that you only know when you experience it, you know. But there's so much richness in those talanoas that it blew us away and stuff. And so I took some time out, and now I'm back into it, and you know, I'm looking next month to do my professional training. I was really fortunate enough to land a scholarship to cover my tuition, because it's not cheap, you know, nothing's free and it's not cheap. But what I am grateful for is working alongside my sister Lisa Mullions to help me, and then we eventually I want to be able to grow that side and be able to, you know, go into different industries, different cultures, and take the map. You know, of course, we'll always work with Pacifica and so forth, but we also recognize that this is something that is life-changing. And, you know, if you can, if you can inspire people and they just feel, you know, nothing's going to stop them because they know who they are, that's powerful, you know.
For the longest time, I always felt, you know, us being Pacific Islanders going into like the white corporate world, you know, when we go to interview, we have to act like them. We have to look like them, dress up like them, and talk like them to be like them to try to get the job. But this is the opposite. This is actually teaching us that we're not going that way. We're being ourselves. We're being ourselves because we know ourselves. And man, I never looked at it like that before, and that's and for me, hearing that it's happening, that it's been taught, it's been shown to our students, the map of meaning, and having these safe spaces where you can get real people in to talk to them and have them move forward and not be afraid to like merge our culture with, don't be afraid to like of our culture in the Western world, and I don't know, it's unheard of. To me, it's unheard of. I'm thinking, man, I would be scared to do that. I would be like back when I was starting work, like I said before, it's the Balangi in front of you. You want to act like him, you want to talk like him, you want to be like him. But it's cool that nowadays, I don't know, as part of the diversity thing, how we're finding different ways around the forcing diversity, which I don't agree with, but just have to come naturally and knowing that, it is in us. And so let's just use it. I've never heard that before, and that's cool. That's so cool.
So that's basically why we do this, And like you said, it's all about you being you and you having the space and place to do this in a way that it encourages you and it positively reflects who you are without being shamed and not being pulled down or anything, And so that again, it's a reflection of who you are and make sure you're in touch with who you are and what you're all about and stuff. Yeah.
Yep, I'm gonna go wear if I can't go to work tomorrow. Then.
You go do that. You just go wear whatever you like as long as you're wearing not the blues, you'll be fine. Put the Chiefs, they will put you up there on the pai, say, yep, good boy, malo and stuff. But yeah. Well, look, hey, I'd love to carry on. I just gotta shoot home.
No worries.
My wife and stuff.
No worries, man. It's all good.
I took a photo. She goes, who the heck are you guys talking to, mate? Don't you worry. Tangata whenua, you talk to your judge. Us Hummels, we talk to the world through media and radio 531 PI.
No. Thank you for coming on and talking to me about what you're doing. And man, I learned so much, man. It's cool to hear stuff like that because, like I said, there's a second episode I've recorded this year, and I'm ready to keep going, man. But thank you for coming, and hope you can come back again after the Blues win. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about how you cheated, but that's okay. That's another story. And I'm sure if I did the map of meaning, you guys were always cheaters. But hey, no judgment here.
Okay. Just one thing. Can you just tell our listeners where to find your Facebook page and where to follow you?
Yeah. So if you want to join us, it's pretty easy. Just go to Polynesian Health Support Group. Our motto is DNA, do nothing at all. Do nothing average. Just you'll find us there, Polynesian Health Support Group, and just invite yourself, and then I'll approve it. And everything on there is a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, less of me talking, and on the odd occasion I will, but I try not to. But you'll find everything there, and if you have any questions, you're most welcome to ask any questions or comments on there and so forth. I've really targeted a lot of our Pasifika on here, and so you're welcome to share it with your family and friends, and look forward to seeing you guys there. But before I go, also I wanted to thank Cam. He Whawhitei Lava Cam Losunga for this opportunity. Honestly, this guy reached out to me. I was like, who the hell is this guy? He said, man, I want you on my podcast. What podcast? Hey, this guy probably mugged me. And he was persistent in getting a hold of me. And then I thought, okay, I'll check this guy out. And oh, he's real. And but I didn't tell my family, because if I did, they're like, who the hell wants to talk to you, bro? And I don't know. And so I'm really glad that this has happened. I'm very humbled that I'm your second interviewee for this year, and I wish you all the best with all that you're doing, and understand that when life does throw us curveballs. It's about time, and how we navigate that space. But look, I look forward to coming back, only because I just grateful for the challenge that you've put out there, and I'm grateful for this time. So thank you again. God bless you and your family. Whaftai tele lawa kako kalango ngai po whaftai.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.